What is up everyone, and welcome to a very different video. I've had a lot of requests from people. They want to see pro audio stuff, PA stuff, sound system stuff, lighting stuff, all the stuff that I do as pretty much my main job. Well, you know, my main job has lots of different sections, but you know, as you guys know, I'm self-employed and I do a lot of this stuff. So a lot of you guys have been wanting videos on it, and I thought this was a very good place to start because I have been currently building up, I've just started today building up my brand new amp rack full of new shiny components to drive my PA system. And I thought I'd whip out some of my older stuff to talk to you guys about as well, and just generally chat about cool PA stuff. So yeah, this is going to be very different. I am sorry to all of the viewers that don't have a clue what I'm going on about, but I've had some requests and this is indeed a variety channel, so I am going to make a couple of these kind of videos just so everyone's happy. And if you liked the studio videos, then this is very similar stuff. This is just live audio instead of studio audio. So without further ado everyone, let's have a little chat about some PA system stuff. This video is going to be spread across days and days of recording, maybe even a week. This is just a little section now that I'm doing on Tuesday night. Yeah, just chatting to you guys. I hope you enjoy the different kind of video. Let's get straight into it. So here is the new beast that I have begun putting together. The first thing that probably stands out is the bright red case. Now, I needed a new amp rack, we'll talk about why in a second, but I couldn't pass up this deal. I needed this case, and I would have bought it even if it was bright pink, or even if it was brown, or if it was beige. I would have bought it regardless of the colour, because I managed to snag a brilliant deal for this on eBay. It's shorter than my old amp rack, which is exactly what I needed. The handles are flipped round, so instead of them being this way, they're this way, which is much easier. My old one, you had to carry it like a giant pizza if you were carrying it on your own, or you had to carry it with one handle if you wanted it by the side of you. But this one, you can carry it downwards in front of you, and it's a lot easier. Plus, it's smaller as well. It's a very well made case. Can't quite remember what case it is at the moment. We'll look at the badge in a second and I'll mention it later if I remember. The lids are nice and deep. I needed deep lids, not the ones that Swanflight are making at the moment, which is only the thickness of two of these pieces of trim, I believe. There's no wood in between, so I needed the thickness of the lids. We'll talk about why again later on. This stand has nothing to do with this system. This is just pure. This is my lighting desk stand. I'm just using it to hold it up so it doesn't take up loads of space on my desk while I'm working on it, because it's I'm going to need to start sorting out cables and stripping back cables and wiring everything up really soon. But let me just quickly, very quickly go over why I'm building up a new PA system. It was one of my goals for 2015, get my own sound system sorted. I borrow a lot of gear. I've got a lot of gear, but I also borrow a lot of gear. A lot of the work I do is with other sound systems anyway, so whether that's in a venue or on the road. I work closely with a bloke down the road. He's a great guy, and he has a couple of full systems. He's got a KV2 audio rig and a DB Technologies and Sherman audio rig, which is nice. Two nice systems, a big one and a little one, which is great. I do a lot of work with him, but I needed my own system as well because people know me as mainly a lighting guy, but also a sound guy. I just do anything I can with this stuff to get cash, and for that I need my own rig, because phoning people up and borrowing stuff all the time is very annoying. I haven't had my own rig in a very long time. When I was in the band last year, I did pretty much maintain the band's rig, and sort of what I said about it went really. When we needed to buy a new amplifier, I said we're going to buy so-and-so amplifier, so we bought it. When we upgraded from our Mackie SRM 450s, when we upgraded to a passive system with bins and tops, I pretty much kind of pioneered that whole project and put together the amp racks and stuff required. And I used a lot of my own stuff. And that gets us into my next point. I have indeed lost the big chunk of my rig. The rig that I had before the band, I used a lot of those components in the band rig, including an amp rack and stuff. And I've lost a lot of that stuff. Now, I'm not annoyed at the guys in the band. If I had my way, I'd still be brilliant friends with them if I could. You know, they're great guys, and I loved them to bits, really, back in the band days. But I guess it's not meant to be, and one day maybe they'll forgive me for leaving, but I'm not too sure. So I've lost a lot of gear in the band. I lost my case, the case itself, which is, you know, not a big deal because my other case was for you, and it was, as I say, this is a better case. But, you know, I could have sold that to fund this one. One thing I'm gutted about is I lost a couple of speak-on leads that I just gave to them. I lost a lot of internal amp rack wiring, which actually becomes quite expensive when you look at XLR patch leads, you know, if you've got sort of 4 or 6 of them. I lost a rack mount power strip. I lost microphone stands. I lost XLR leads. And I also lost a quarter of the entire cost of the PA, I guess, in a certain way. Quarter of the cost of the amp racks, or even a third of the cost of the amp racks, because we bought both amplifiers while I was in the band. And yeah, it was a third because there was 3 members at the time. So bottom line is, I lost a lot of stuff in that band, and I've been gone. I haven't been in the band now for 7 or 8 months, and for those 7 or 8 months, I haven't had my own PA system or access to a PA system that I can pretty much call mine. So one of my goals for very early 2015 was take a little bit of money that I earned on tour to put together a sound system, primarily focusing on getting a really good amp rack set up that's lightweight, portable, but still packs a really, really big punch. So yeah, that's pretty much the backstory behind that. We're going to go into the specifics about what's in this case already, and then what I'm also going to put in it in a minute. I'm really looking forward to doing that. But first, let's talk about some components that I used to use. Well, I used to use this crossover, and then we'll talk about this GX3, because if I was using it, it would be in the rack. So that's another story. There is an amplifier in there, soon to be 2. But yeah, we'll talk about the new stuff in a minute. Let's talk about the old. So, moving on from all the quite depressing and mopey band stuff then, let's talk about this crossover, which is a much more fun story. This crossover was originally a freebie. It got given to my friend Jack. Me and Jack were doing a gig in one club that's about half a mile down the road. He was on sound, I was on lights. This was years ago. Probably when we both first started doing gigs, really, that wasn't sort of disco related. So I'm kind of thinking like 2010, something like that. But I had lights actually, so it was probably a year after that maybe, so maybe 2011. Anyway, whenever it was, Jack randomly turned up with this crossover and said he got given it. I can't remember the full story now, but yeah, this was a freebie crossover, and it sat in Jack's house doing nothing for ages, I think. So then in 2012, when we were in college, I said, look Jack, I want to borrow the crossover. I want to use it for a bit. I want to use it for something cool. So he was like, yeah, no worries. And he wasn't using it anyway. I don't know if he's ever used it. I don't think he has. So I borrowed the crossover to experiment with, and I used it for a bit with some very cheap tops and borrowed subwoofers. But then when we bought the passive system that I was talking about in the band after selling the SRM 450s, we needed a crossover. So before we got our hands on our crossover, I used this one. And I never gigged it. We never gigged using this crossover because in rehearsal, well, before rehearsal, I went early to test out the sound system. I managed to completely blow something up, which was hilarious, right? So I was there experimenting, and this is a 3-way crossover. So I had 2 PV bass bins on here, which were 115XT bass bins, high-sis bass bins. Very good. Very good bins for what they are. Black Widow drivers, don't underestimate them. Mids, I had a pair of PV High-Sis 2s with tweeters in them. Like I said, I was experimenting at low volumes. It was only a bit of fun. And I had a pair of PV Messenger tops. I can't remember the model number of those. They were speakers that we bought just in the meantime to get us by while we were upgrading the PA. So I was just playing around and everything was going great. And then I was just fiddling, and all of a sudden there's this massive bang, and the highs actually made this colossal bang, and one of the PV messengers completely blew up. The tweeter went, and the cone started sounding like crapola. It was all distorted and horrible, and yeah, it was a pile of junk, and we damaged the amp that was plugged into. So I messed up there, and ever since then, I thought this had been a cursed crossover because it occurred when I was fiddling with one of these knobs. Now, every time you turn a knob, it has like a click to it. It's not a smooth, it's not a smooth sweep between the frequencies. It's definitely a set point. Now, this crossover worked okay after that, as long as the unit was switched off. You set your values, set your volumes, switch the unit on, and then never touched it. But if anyone was to ever accidentally do this, it was faulty, so it would send a massive pop through the speakers, and just like it did with the Messengers, they were the weaker speakers out of the 3 sets, so they got popped. I'm so glad it wasn't our high-sis speakers, because they were our main PA then, you know, big and bulky, but great for band stuff. And good for cone replacements as well, because you can get cheap Black Widow baskets. So, after that, I didn't use the crossover for a little bit, but then I began experimenting with it myself again in my own system, in my own time. I had access to the band system and another crossover at that point, and I wasn't doing a lot of my own stuff anyway. In fact, I wasn't doing hardly any of my own stuff because of the amount of gigs we had. So yeah, this went back into sort of my ownership, if you like. Still borrowed off Jack. I'd never heard Jack mention it. And yeah, it worked okay as long as you didn't touch it while it was on. So, the other day, I decided, while I was planning all of this stuff, I decided to dig up all of my existing equipment before ordering any of this, just to see what was happening. Plugged this in, switched it on, just let it sit there for a second, and on its own, completely out the blue, it made sort of like a sizzling noise, followed by a pop, and then smoke came out of every single tiny crevice. Now, there's no air vents or anything in this crossover, but every little seam, a little tiny bit of wispy smoke was wisping out, and it made a massive pop, and this sort of crackling, weird noise, and it was just making noises, and I thought it was going to burst into flames, so naturally I switched it off and pulled the power. So now this is a cursed crossover, and I pretty much think it's the end of its life, which is probably a good thing, because you guys may have noticed by now it's a Gemini unit. Gemini make primarily DJ related stuff, so it's not bad stuff. It's not bad stuff at all, actually. I've got a Gemini turntable and I really like it. But it is made for DJs, so we were always limited, if I can turn this around successfully, we were always limited to phono inputs. Now, phono, sorry, I'm not even getting it in the frame. It's phono in only, you can get phono out, but luckily there are XLR outputs as well. So I'd have to go XLR out of the desk into phono. I did get a nice quality phono lead, it's not a massive deal, but having XLR in would definitely be a lot better. So I knew I didn't want to use this crossover, plus it's 3-way, plus it's just not that great. Like the volume knobs, for instance, they don't have a gain readout on them, they don't have a decibel readout, so, you know, you don't know where 0 is. You don't know if 0 is at the top, or if 0 is full whack, or if 0 is 3/4 the way up, because it just doesn't say. There's notches, but it doesn't say where 0 dB is. I assume it's there, but I don't even know. So I wanted something that was a bit more flexible and just better, to be honest. So I'm glad I'm not using this crossover anymore. It would have been handy and I would have put it in this rack for now, but yeah, it's probably best just left alone. Considering I'm using new amps, I don't want to set them off using this. So that's the crossover story. And just to mention what I'll be using instead, I have successfully won a DBX crossover, a simple 2-way analog stereo, lows and tops, you know, just bins and tops. I've managed to win one for £50 on eBay, which is a steal. Really pleased with that win. That crossover is about £120 on Tommen, and it's a little more expensive everywhere else, so I've got a great deal on that. DBX make decently nice stuff. I didn't want any of the digital stuff, so that'll be ideal for me, and I'm looking forward to it. It's the version with XLR as well, so I won't be using jack. So that'll get slotted into the top unit of the rack, but like I said, we'll talk about that rack in a minute. Let's talk about this QSC that I've dug up sitting here, because up until a few days ago, this was going to be the amp to drive my top speakers. I thought I'd show you guys the crossover anyway, just so you guys knew what I was on about. This is the DBX 233XL, I believe, or is it the 223XL? Anyway, it's the version with XLRs, and as you guys can see, plain and simple, you've got one side here, one side there, XLR in, left and right, and then left and right top, left and right sub, and you are sorted. Nice controls, 4 knobs on each channel, simple, clean, and it's a very, very good crossover for your basic system. So I'm looking forward to that arriving. I've got to book a courier myself, and I'm trying to negotiate with the seller to print out the label. They're a fairly new eBay seller at the moment, so it's a bit tricky, but hopefully I end up getting it. The seller seems very genuine. They're just a little bit unfamiliar with how everything works. But anyway, like I said, let's talk about this QSC GX3. Now, this GX model is not to be confused with the other GX series amplifiers that you guys have seen in my videos in the past. I've just remembered that I did do like a gig log and also a vlog containing some of the clips from the band system. I was quite proud of that system that I put together, because even though I used a lot of my own stuff, I used stuff that we'd bought collectively as a band as well, and also I did it on an extreme budget. So we put together a kicking system that was very modular and flexible. We had 2 rack cases just so that we could use only top amp if we needed, because our sub amp was so heavy we only took it if we absolutely needed it. So it was a brilliant modular system, and like I say, this is a similar model amp, but it's not to be confused with the one from the band, because it isn't. This amp has actually come from my friend James. You all know James. James with the MacBook Pro, and James on the live stream. You all know him. Apple Ocarina of Mac, check him out. And yeah, he'll probably shout at me for plugging his channel once again. But anyway, here is the amplifier, and the story behind this is James bought this on eBay because he was going to use it in his guitar rack. There was, back in one time, years ago now, I think it was a good, probably 3 years ago by now, James was going to use this QSC amp as the power amplifier stage of his guitar rack, and he was going to get a guitar preamplifier and loads of effects units and stuff, which is, you know, something that more bassists do, but a lot of guitarists do it as well, especially really, you know, high up their big touring sort of level. But yeah, he actually broke this amp. Poor guy, it wasn't his fault. This amp sort of blew up, and it took his Mac with it. He had to get his Mac repaired. His Mac was plugged into it with a phono lead. Oh, he's playing guitar through it. I can't even remember the setup. He had this plugged into a couple of speakers, and it just blew up. He did nothing wrong. So yeah, it fried his motherboard and his Mac. He had to get his Mac repaired, and I took his hard drive out for him and backed up his data and stuff just in case. Luckily, it didn't fry his hard drive. But yeah, the interesting story is James has a Skytech 600 watt amplifier that he bought off me years ago, and it hasn't failed him. And that's meant to be a cheap, shitty little amp, and it's never failed him. And he listens to music all the time using that amp. All the time, and he swears by it. He had a QSC for a week or 2, and it blew. And do you know what, guys? I have now seen 3 of these GX models go down the drain. Now, I do see a lot of amps when I go around the place, and they are very, very good model amps. But I've seen 3 of them go. My friend Jack has a GX3, and that thing is knackered. And to be honest with you, the annoying factor about these amps is the GX series is extremely hard to repair. For some unknown reason, a lot of amp companies, well, people that are happy to repair amps, will repair every model of amplifier under the sun, but this will be in the blacklist. There's something about the GX series that's difficult to repair. So, this amp is James's. He gave it to me. This is the one that killed his Mac. And the interesting thing about this amp is one channel works perfectly. I think it's channel B. It works perfectly with a slight hum. So it does need a little bit of looking at. But one channel is completely dead and the clip light just stays on. So you can use it as one channel, but of course one whole side of the amp is down. And that channel is slightly dodgy anyway, so I doubt it's even giving full output. So the initial plan was to use this GX3 for my tops, because it's got a fairly decent output to match my 12-inch top speakers. But up until a few days ago, that's what I was going to do, but I've changed my mind. I was going to get this amp repaired, but repaired at the cost, I bought a new amp for the same cost. So what I'm thinking of doing, guys, because this is a decent quality amp, and it is a lightweight amp, we'll talk about weight soon. If I ever get monitors, which is something I'd love to do, probably this time next year, just get 2 wedges, that's all I want, just 2 12-inch wedges, or 3 wedges and daisy chain a couple or whatever. I'd want to run them with this amp. Possibly. So I'm going to hold on to it for now, but yeah. I have another amp upstairs that I used to use with my previous system before the band. That amp has had a couple of issues, but issues that I've been able to sort, and my dad sorted one of the issues with me as well. It was actually a danger to use because the case was live in an instance. It's a hardwired amplifier, which is a very bad idea if you've got handles on the front, because you pick it up and it squashes the wire into the back of the case, and it damaged the cable coming in, so the whole case was live. Very dangerous. But it is a powerful amplifier. It's a cheap, powerful amplifier, and it never let me down. I used it with an active subwoofer and a couple of passive tops. But like I say, I am no longer going to use this QSC for my tops. So back into storage. Now, I have actually decided to buy a new amp for my tops and a new amp for my bins. So all in all, when you think about it, guys, we have a new amp rack, we have 2 new amplifiers, a new crossover. Some of this stuff is secondhand and refurbished. In fact, all of it is. None of it is brand spanking new, but new to me anyway. So in theory, we have an entirely new system. All I was meant to do at the start of 2015 was refurbish my PA system, but then I kind of discovered that I didn't have a PA system. My rack case is gone, so I've got no building blocks or bones around my amplifiers. One of the amplifiers that I own is knackered and it's very expensive to repair. The other one I own upstairs is very heavy and it's cheap. It's a cheap make, and I'd like to upgrade to something better. And I do have another amp kicking about upstairs, but that's not even the right output power for the speakers. So I don't even have the amplifiers that I require. My crossover blew up, so I don't even have a crossover. The only thing I had was this power strip, and there's a funny story behind this power strip. The power strip is from an order that I did when I was doing my bass rig, I believe. When I played bass in the band for a very short amount of time. I bought one of these, they sent me 12. I messaged the seller, I said, look, you've sent me too many, out of pure honesty, and I never had a message back. So they sent me 12 instead of 1, which is awesome. I checked the bill, I was definitely only charged for 1, and I've been using them in everything ever since. So there's a couple of these in work. I gave one to the bloke down the road. There's one in the amp rack case that the band have still got. My one in my case. It's just everywhere. I've got one up in the studio, and I've still got loads to spare. It was either 12 or 14 they gave me, so they've been really coming in handy. But yeah, it's turned into an entirely new system, which isn't such a bad thing, because I got a lot of old audio junk. This is only some of it. This is just crossover and amp. I've got a stack about that high of old rack mounted gear and audio crap that's no good upstairs. I've got a karaoke system that I had a sale fall through on, a professional karaoke system. I don't want to do that kind of thing anymore. I've also got a rack mount dual radio mic receiver, along with, what the hell else is up there then? Rack mount dual CD player, stuff like that. I've got all this rack gear taking up much too much space. I've started using all of my compressors and EQs in my studio rack now, so I won't be taking any of those on the road, and I'll explain why later. But yes, pretty much all brand new, but it's alright because I got a lot of stuff to sell, which will make up for it. So guys, I've flipped the rack case around, and this is the big reveal to talk about what amplifiers I'll be using. I think you'll be shocked. Here we go. Now this, guys, don't judge me, don't go to comments straight away. This is a Behringer iNUKE amplifier. This is a Class D amp, so it's extremely lightweight. This is, I believe, 3.3 kilograms, which is ridiculous. This is so light, so light. Don't judge me at all. So let me talk to you about the front of the rack for now, and then we'll flip it back around. So as you guys know, Behringer is a very hit and miss company. A lot of people say that Behringer stuff is pretty damn naff, but for the money you can't get anything to match it. And that is a very good sort of sum up of the Behringer stuff then. Now, there are some stuff that Behringer make that I wouldn't touch with a barge pole, including their speakers. I've heard some crap sounding Behringer speakers. I wouldn't touch their microphones, I wouldn't touch their guitar amps or their effects pedals, I wouldn't touch their effects units, and I definitely wouldn't touch their Feedback Destroyer Pro piece of crap. But there are some stuff that Behringer just does simply right. Their analog desks, the Behringer Xenix series, I think I used to own one. I know I used to own one, sorry. Yeah, but I think they are pretty decent for the money. You can't really get anything to beat them. The preamps are very sucky, but if you just want to use them for your cheapo, lightweight stuff, they're okay. But talking mixers, Behringer have recently released, well, not recently, well, in the last couple of years, I guess, have released their Behringer X32 digital mixer, which is probably going to be the new affordable best digital mixer you can buy. Everything about the X32 is good, pretty much. For the price, you simply can't get anything like it, including stage boxes as well, because something like an equal offering from Allen & Heath, such as like a QU series mixer, is all well and good in a similar price range, but as soon as you add on the stage boxes and then look at the features, you get a lot more for your money with the Behringer stuff. The X32 is so nice, and Behringer have started releasing a good few things that are going to be good. So, in my opinion, in a lot of people's opinion, I was reading an article the other day, a lot of people say that the X32 is going to become the new LS9, because, you know, the LS9 is getting quite old now, and X32s are turning up everywhere. I've seen them in 3 theatres on this tour already. So these iNUKE amplifiers then are their amplifiers from the last 2 or 3 years, or maybe 3 or 4 now, so still fairly new in terms of amplifiers. They are their newest model. They are lightweight, Class D amplifiers, and they do really pack a punch. Now, one thing that don't get put off by the rated specifications of these amps, they do not deliver what they say on the tin. If you get the manual, it will tell you the true spec. I don't have the manual for this, and I haven't looked, but I pretty much know what the damn things give out. Just take away a few hundred watts from their actual stats. So I wanted something that would be extremely lightweight, extremely lightweight, and I'm talking really light, to make this carryable by one person. And I needed a lot of power because all of my speakers are 8 ohms. I needed a lot of power for the weight. So I decided to go for the iNUKEs. Another option I had was IPR amps, I think, but they're a lot more expensive than iNUKEs, and they have actually got worse reviews in some cases. I'm not sure about the IPR2s, but they're not really that well available in this country yet anyway. They seem to be rolling out very slowly. The iNUKEs, apparently, for the money, you can't go wrong. Brilliant bang for the buck. Now, apparently the fan noise is a little bit loud, especially on the NU 6000 model. This is a 3000. But guys, why does that matter? Even in a theatre environment, you have your amps in a separate room anyway, more than likely. So I don't understand people that complain about noisy amplifiers. I don't get that. These aren't home theatre amplifiers. If you're going to have them in the same room and they're going to be for home use, you need to get dedicated amplifiers that are good for that. These are on the road, pro audio amps, well, you know, semi-pro audio. So here's the iNUKE. Let's look at the specifications then on the website. Apparently this delivers 2 times 1500 watts into 2 ohms. That's where it gets its name. So that's why it's called the NU 3000, because total 3K into 2 ohms. Obviously, I'd never run my full system at 2 ohms all the time. So this is where it starts to interest me. It's 2 times 900 watts into 4 ohms. So that would roughly translate as it should being around 2 times 450 watts into 8 ohms. Now, give or take the bullshit that comes with Behringer stuff, you should be getting about 350 watts per channel into 8 ohms, which is not bad. My top speakers, I have one of them there, is an 8 ohm cabinet. It peaks at 1000 watts, but it has an RMS of 250 watts. So whatever output this gives, as long as it's somewhere between 250 and 500 aside at 8 ohms, I'm very happy with it. And of course, the bullshit kind of doesn't get as bad when you go into the 8 ohm. So this is a big claim. This is still a big claim, but not as bad. But when you drop down to 8 ohms, it should pretty much deliver that a little bit less than what it says. They never state the 8 ohm load power. I don't know why they don't do that, because, you know, there are a lot of 8 ohm speakers out there. But anyway, so it's going to run cool, it's going to run quiet, and it's going to run efficient, I believe. Well, quiet doesn't really bother me, at an 8 ohm load. because that's the least stressful position for an amplifier to be in, I guess, like this. I'm not too familiar with Class D amps at all. I don't claim to know a lot about them. These are my first amps, and this does indeed just weigh 3.3 kilograms, so you can pick it up with one hand easily. This crossover is actually heavier than this amp. So that's what brings me on to the lightweight stuff. The GX series was marketed as QSC's lightweight, affordable series of amplifiers. QSC quality with a price tag that you can probably reach, and also a decent, how am I trying to say this? Decent quality amp and a decently light amp as well. So the GX3 and the NU3000 are fairly similar beasts. This isn't quite as powerful on paper, but this will give you a lot more power than a bullshit statement. So QSC power output statements should be correct. The GX5 and the GX7 are the next two models up. It doesn't go up to there. The iNUKE has a NU6000, which is double the power of this. We'll talk about that in a second. And an NU12000, which is double the power again. That's a colossal amp. And also there is an NU1000, which is the one under this, which is not a very powerful amp at all. That'll give you about 150 watts per side into 8 ohms. So that is definitely not something that I'm interested in at this moment in time. But the QSC I'm not using, so we're going to take it out of the picture for a second. But of course, one thing that did sway me towards buying the iNUKE as well was definitely the weight. I want to keep the weight in this rack down. Once I have a patch panel in the back with all the cabling, and I have all of the different sockets plugged in, and I've got that power strip, like the crossover, and I got 2 amplifiers, this is going to be really heavy anyway, you know, compared to a normal heavy load. But compared to an amplifier rack, you know, something with a couple of these in it, or, you know, God forbid, proper heavy amps, like, you know, an RMX or something by QSC, then, man, I wouldn't be able to lift this. So, yeah, it's just nice to have lightweight amps, and I think I'm going to be able to lift it just fine on my own when it gets full. So, I've been rambling a lot, and I haven't even shown you the back of the rack yet. We'll get onto that in a second. But I'd like to just talk quickly about the second amplifier that I'll be buying. This is an iNUKE NU6000. So, I am pretty much set on buying this amp. A little part of me wanted to buy another NU3000, but I want to talk a little bit about bass versus top, so subs versus top. I kind of am going by the standard 2-way PA rule of you want to put double the power into your bins because it's a rock and roll setup, and bass needs more power anyway, as everyone knows. And yeah, that's just basically the way it's done. So stepping up to an NU6000 is a good idea. But I'm a little bit skeptical about getting a 6000 because it's the next one up. I wish there was somewhere in between. I wish there was like an NU5000, for instance. But they've already got a lot of products. So, you know, I take my hat off to Behringer for releasing these at the price that they do. It's great. So the bass bins that I'll be using are 8 ohm bins. And they are 600 watts RMS and 1,400 watt peak, I believe, or 1,200 watt peak. So they're quite powerful bass bins for a single 15-inch. They're made by Sherman Audio, if anyone's interested, which is a British speaker company. Brilliant, brilliant quality speakers. I'll talk more about them in the next part. This is already going to be a really long video. But if I bought an NU3000, that would only give them, say, 400 watts each, so they'd be starved of 200 watts from the RMS, which is definitely something that I don't want to do, because underpowering speakers is a lot worse than overpowering, which is, you know, a little something that doesn't seem likely, but, you know, apparently that's the case, according to certain little friends that I have that are very good at this kind of sound stuff. Cough, cough, Jack. But anyway, the NU6000, as you guys can see here, delivers 2 times 1,600 watts into 8 ohms, which is, this claim is about it's either 200 or 400 watts above the max rating of the Sherman Audio bins that I'll be using at 8 ohms. But the good thing is, this is a bullshit statement again, and the amp will probably only give out about 1,000 watts. If it does, I'm happy. I would not like it to give out much more than 1,200 watts. I am happy to deliver, I'm happy to match the max rating of a speaker, because I'm not underpowering the damn thing, obviously, and of course you're never going to be pushing it that hard. I would never do it if you had a Wally running the system and they were pushing the mixer into the red all the time, but as long as you're sensible, then it's absolutely fine having an amp that's much more powerful than the RMS. You know, this is debatable amongst audio people. A lot of people do it in a different way, but if it gives me 1,600 watts per box, that's a little bit too much juice that I don't quite want. So I'm kind of looking at my system in this kind of way, guys. It's going to end up being a 3K system, in my opinion, because let's hope it gives 1,000 watts per bin and 500 watts per top, something like that. Or if it gives 1,100 watts per bin and 400 watts per top, then it's still a 3K system. I think it's going to balance out to somewhere just below or somewhere just above 3K. I'm a little bit skeptical, if I can even speak, about buying the NU6000, but I don't think it'll have enough grunt to rip through those 15-inch good quality subwoofers. Regardless, and I've just got to keep my eye on it, see how it goes. And if I see any warning signs, then I'll definitely swap it in for something else. But the unfortunate thing is, there is no ideal iNUKE amplifier to run my bass bins, because the NU3000, like I mentioned, is, even with the claim, is much under the RMS rating of the bins. So that is absolutely no good. So yeah, you guys will see what I end up deciding, you know, to do in the next couple of days. I don't have the bins here, they wouldn't get up the stairs. Well, they would get up the stairs, but they're a lot too heavy to have on this floor. It's just not a good idea, especially with all the other gear that I've got up here. So yeah, I'm going to be testing those somewhere else, and you may or may not see the bins in this little video. I say little video, it might either be a series or it could be really long, but either way, this is what's happening now, and I'm probably going to stop talking about the gear that I may order, and let's talk a little bit more about the physical components of the rack, because that's going to be a lot more exciting. So there's not much to see at the moment, guys, but at least you can actually see into the rack thanks to this nice softbox. Let me just explain where things are going to be going first of all. So first up, we're going to have a vented rack panel up here. I don't need to put anything up there. The reason the power supply is down one is because if you want to put a transformer into it, then often a transformer will stick up this way past the power strip, and you can't do that because of the roof of the case. And as you guys can see, it's fairly deep. The rack ears are fairly deep recessed in there. So it's handy to have that down just in case you've got a bulky plug you want to put in. And also it just makes life a little bit easier. It's further down, easier to see. Switch is much easier accessible. Much more easily accessible. I really can't speak in this video, apologies. But anyway, so I'm going to have a vented rack panel there. This is a 1U power supply that I already spoke about. Now this is 1U, but it does annoyingly overlap the second U, so you can't put anything below it easily, but it doesn't matter because of course all of these cables need to go somewhere. So there is a patch panel going here, and this little gap here will be used for all of the cables that need to be pushed out of the way and going back into the rack. So it kind of works out ideal. There'll be a patch panel there, nothing there of course, that's cable space like I just spoke about. And here there will be another vented panel just like the top. Now luckily the iNUKE series suck in from the back and blow out through the front. Although if they sucked in through the front and blew out through the back, then that would probably be a little bit better, because the front would more than likely be a much cleaner path with less obstruction. Now I am a little concerned about the obstruction for airflow up here, especially with the NU6000. As you guys can see, the NU3000 is fairly deep into the rack. It's fairly deep, it's a good few inches in there, don't know if you can see that, but the 6000 is about that much deeper, so it's going to come to about here, and right here there's going to be a patch panel in this position, and the 6000 has 2 fans to cool it, so it's going to be sucking a lot of air. This one, without a load, already sucks tons of air. I can feel the air blowing out the front, and it is, you know, a fairly noisy fan, but like I said, that doesn't bother me at all. So if the airflow does become restricted, I will have to put a panel with some very small fans in it. I'll probably get 1, 2, 3, 4 fans along the bottom, but I really don't want to do that. If I can get away with good temperatures with just a vented panel here and here, I think I'll be okay. And of course there'll be this little gap here as well, so there should be decent airflow. I can't imagine it being too bad. And luckily, this thing or the patch panel, of course, they're not really appliances, so they don't generate much heat. So it's not as if the air is being sucked past an existing hot piece of equipment, so it should be cool fresh air coming in from the back. So yeah, again, vent panel, patch bay, space for the mains cables to go underneath back into the rack, main power strip and another vented panel. Now then, at the moment, for illustration purposes only, I have 2 XLR cables connected to the left and right input of that amplifier. These are brand new cables that I've purchased because I lost all of my patch leads in the other system that the band have still got. These are live wire cables. I swear by live wire cables. I really enjoy them because of the colours, and they're so easily obtainable, and they're just great quality XLRs. I love them to pieces. See them everywhere. I'm using 1 meter red patch XLRs in this system, so I've got 4 of them. And obviously the other 2 will be coming out of the other amp, and they will be going into that region of the case up the top into the crossover outputs. So I've just got those there just to show you. So that's the audio signal out of the way. Power wise, it's all very simple. I do have a cable tie around this little section of cables for now. I'll talk about this in a minute, but basically all it's going to be is 13 amp for the 6000, 3000 and the crossover, all kettle leads going out, and of course into the power input of both amplifiers and into the power input of the crossover. That's simple. They'll all be on 13 amp plugs here, labelled up like so that if a fuse goes, I can simply flip it underneath and have a look. I haven't even checked if this kettle leads a 13 amp yet, so I want all of the amplifiers running on, both of the amplifiers running on 13 amp fuses, of course. That's something to make sure, guys, if you've got a small little 5 amp computer kettle lead, make sure you don't go plugging it into any hefty amplifiers, because even though these are Class D lightweight amps and they don't draw that much power, you're still talking about giving out like 3000 watts, so, you know, it's still a fair bit of juice. And, you know, 13 amp is, you know, around that mark anyway. But anyway, the reason this big bundle of cables is here at the moment is just tied up together. One of it is the kettle lead for the amplifier. The other is the power lead coming from the power strip. Now these power strips terminate in a male IEC lead, which is very handy if you're using them in conjunction with something like a power conditioner, like one of those Furman power conditioners or one of the cheaper alternatives with the rack lights and stuff. If you want more 13 amp sockets off one of those, it's very handy. It's also handy if you've just got a kettle lead on the end and you want to plug it up that way. It works great. But I won't be using this IEC connection. I'll be chopping it off, and I'll also be chopping it very short. I'll probably have about that much power cable on this because it'll be going straight down and it'll be hardwired into the patch panel, which will have a nitric PowerCon connector on it. So that is right, guys. I will be going with a PowerCon input connection for this amp rack. PowerCon to power these 6 13 amp outlets, and I'll be ordering a couple of PowerCon cables, one PowerCon to 16 amp. Be very handy if I have it. I need to open this up just to make sure that I'm happy for it to accept a 16 amp input. It should be fine. But I'll also get a PowerCon to 13 amp cable for those places that don't have 16 amp outputs, or for those places where I'm not taking my 32 amp to 16 amp distribution unit, or power distro for short. But anyway, that was a lot of rambling. Basically, all that means is I'll be converting this IEC, chopping the lead a lot shorter, and it'll be hardwired into a PowerCon socket on the patch panel. So that'll be great. Perfect power input. Very simple, but also very sleek, professional and reliable, and quick to set up too. No faffing around with kettle leads that may or may not work and drop out on their own without you wanting them to, basically. So, talking about the patch panel, it's going to be a simple, very, very simple patch panel. Basically, all it's going to have is the PowerCon connector. I will not be having a PowerCon output connector. A lot of people do that on their amp racks. There's no point me doing that because I'll have 3 additional 13 amp sockets anyway for things that I may want to plug into there, depending on the setup. But of course it depends how much juice you're sucking as well with the system, how hard you're pushing it, because these two amps, if I have a 6000 and 3000, could potentially max out the power input, I guess. But anyway, I'm not doing a PowerCon outlet just for simplicity of wiring. I'll be hard wiring the power from this straight into the PowerCon socket. Moving over, I will be having two XLR inputs. That's all I'll be having, simple. Two XLR inputs that'll be directly hardwired to the inputs on the crossover that isn't there yet, to the inputs on the DBX unit that will then distribute down these cables and into the back of the amplifiers, and the back of the amplifiers will feed via speak-on, 4 speak-on sockets on the patch panel, which are going to be here. Left, top, left sub, right sub. Easy. Two-way stereo system, 4 boxes. You've got 7 connections on your patch panel, 6 of them are audio, 2 in, 4 out. Bob is your absolute uncle, and that is a very simple setup. Now, just one thing that I'd like to mention, it's very annoying. I'm losing about a tenner when I'll be making this patch panel because the iNUKE series amplifiers are speak-on output only. They do not have banana plugs or binding posts. Normally, if I was putting together an amp rack that would stay in this state, so you know, a set system where you wouldn't be sliding the amps in and out all the time, because I won't be with this, I would definitely save some money by avoiding speak-on connectors internally, because it's a little bit pointless, and I'd just hardwire them directly to the binding posts or the terminal strips on the amplifiers. But the iNUKEs don't have anything, they only have speak-on, so I'll have to buy 4 more speak-on plugs just to wire up a little bit of shorter speaker cable to go to a patch panel, which seems a little bit redundant and a bit annoying, but it's much better than sticking your hand in and trying to fish for the correct ports for the speakers. And also I can label up the patch panel, so if I ever rent this system out to someone else, it'll be a lot more simple for them to put together and operate. So, I hope you guys like the plans for the case and the amp rack in general. The reason why I have it up here is because I'll be working on the cabling and stuff on my desk, you know, wiring everything up with the patch panel and stuff, but I'll be having it here, sort of closer to me, just so I can have leads trailing out from here and I can work on them on my desk. It's kind of a cool little setup. So I hope this project will be done in about a week's time. I'm waiting for a few things, but yeah, it should be great. So before I forget to mention, this case is made by Castle Cases. I've never heard of them before, but even though their sticker is of low quality, well, it's not too bad at all, actually. Normally you just get a metal plaque though from these flight case manufacturers. Even though they don't have a metal plaque, I'll have to say that is pretty much the only downfall of this case. The rack strips are great because, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but they've got the little internal rack strips as well, so that's very handy for securing cables and stuff with cable ties. It's a magnificently built rack. It wasn't finished very well inside the lids here. You'll see a little bit of the damage that I caused, but you know, it had to be done. And anyway, this system isn't designed to be pretty, it's designed to be functional. So they didn't pre-drill the holes before riveting in the bits and bobs on this case, which is really annoying. So it had a lot of flaky wood that was just splintering off, and of course you don't want excess wood going into your audio components. So as you can probably tell, I have sanded all of these down on all of the corners as well, because all the corners are quite bad. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. That's my only gripe with this case, but it's not a true gripe. I absolutely love it. I got a great deal on it, and the seller was great. I'm going to give him really good feedback in a second because it arrived very quickly. Welcome to the next clip, everyone. It is the same night, but a little bit of time later. I forgot to mention something about my speakers, which is also something that I'll be doing in this PA system upgrade. I'll be doing a little bit of work to my top cab speakers. So these are Wharfedale Pro, believe it or not, Wharfedale Pro SI12X speakers. So they're a 12-inch and a horn top, 250 watt RMS, 500 watt program, 1000 watt peak. I've just looked at the specs again, so if I got them wrong earlier in the video, I'm sorry. But these are actually not PA speakers. They are installation speakers. So if you look at the cabinet is actually covered in little threaded holes for flying and mounting. And that's what it's designed for. It's not designed for portable use. As you can see on the top here, there's all these little holes to fly it. Now, the annoying thing about that is this cabinet is designed to be up there and left up there. So it doesn't have things like a handle, feet or skids on the bottom, or a 35mm speaker flange. But luckily, the previous owner, because I got a fantastic deal on these speakers, the previous owner did indeed fit a speaker pole connection in the bottom, a 35mm flange, which is great. Thank God for that. Because, you know, that's one job out of the way. And something that I have bought is 4 feet. I'll only be using 3 of them though, because it's sort of a trapezoid type cabinet. I think it only needs 3. It comes to a single point on the back. I've bought 2 packs of these, which are standard speaker feet from Maplin, which will hopefully hold them up nicely. And I've also bought 2 of these dish handles, which are a little big. I've only bought 1 per speaker because it's an odd-shaped cabinet and there's not a lot of space to put this handle in there anyway. There's a big old magnet on those 12-inch speakers. They're very heavy. So hopefully this will go somewhere on the cab. I've got a feeling that it may not. I hope it does, because they're a bugger to pick up at the moment without handles. But all I want is just 1 handle that I can clasp it with and walk with it like that. It's a heavy speaker. It's about 22 kilos. So for a top cab speaker, it's very heavy, especially for 12-inch. But the cool thing was, because they're installation speakers and not PA speakers, well, obviously they're PA speakers, they're public address, they're just not portable PA speakers. Because they're installation speakers, I got a brilliant deal on them. And they are some of Wharfedale's best speakers that they make, because as you guys probably know, Wharfedale makes some junk. They make some junky, horrible, low-end, carpet-covered stuff. But these cabs, these 12-inch cabs, are really, really nice. And I'd like to upgrade to the 12-inch Sherman cabs to match my bass bins. But yeah, for now, I'm happy with the Wharfedale tops. And I haven't even heard them at their full potential. So I'm looking forward to hearing what they can do nicely crossed over with the bins and with very good amplification, or at least enough power then coming from these iNUKE amps. So yeah, that should be great. So I will be documenting the work that I'll be doing to those speaker cabinets in this video as well, because we'll probably have to take out the tweeter and the cone and peel away a lot of the cabinet insulation just to cut an appropriate hole for the dish handle. But screwing in the feet should be fairly simple. So that is it now, guys. I am not going to talk anymore. I will see you in the next clip, which will be in a couple of days for me, maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. But this is my little project that I'm working on for early 2015. And normally I wouldn't show stuff like this on YouTube, but I've had requests, so I hope you're enjoying. So it's the next day, everyone, and we've already got some progress. Here I have 3 live wire 10-meter speak-on cables. The other one is on the floor there. I've just unraveled it really quickly to see what it's like. Live wire, they seem to still be using the old sleeves on these cables. If you buy XLRs now, they come with these newer sleeves, which don't have a warranty form on the back. These ones have a warranty form. You can fill out to get your lifetime warranty. These still come with a lifetime warranty, but the cool thing is about getting the newer ones is they come with like Velcro cable ties, but I always lose them anyway and end up just using LX tape, so it makes no difference. The really cool thing about these speak-on leads is, I love live wire XLRs and stuff, but when it comes to speak-ons, I just really wanted to get nice quality stuff. I thought the live wire ones would be okay, which they are. They're decent enough. They're actually, yeah, really nice. Once they're trained into a nice proper circle, they'll be even better. I don't understand why live wire package like this. But the best thing is, whatever eBay shop I bought these from, I managed to find a deal where there was either 50 or 60% off. So pretty much I only paid for either 1.5 or 2 leads, and I got all 4, which is great. They're all 10 meters in length. Now, I will need a little bit more length than that, but these are just to get me started. I'm finding it quite hard to part with the money for this project at the moment. But I'm getting there. I'm getting all the stuff that I need. So yeah, what I'll probably do is buy another 2 10-meter ones and a couple of speak-on couplers. So if I need to, I can get a 20-meter run on one of the sides of the stage. So the cool thing is, now I've got these speak-on leads, is I can actually connect up my speakers to my amp without too much trouble. Now, I'm not going to obviously blast them out in here, and I'm only going to be using the tops. My other one's downstairs at the moment, I'm going to bring it up. But I want to test it out anyway, just because I want to make sure that they both, I haven't run them in a while, I want to make sure that they both perfectly work before I take them apart to fit the handles and stuff, just in case I do any damage when we're taking them apart and I don't realise that I'm doing so. So, what I'm going to do is power up the main strip on IEC just for now, from there, and there's an IEC cable that I've got ready coming out of the mains there, so I'll power that up, I'll switch the rack around. Of course, I'll connect some longer XLRs into these patch leads, they're going straight into the amp. I'll connect 2 speak-on leads into the amp and then into their respective speakers, and also I'm going to dig out the phonic digital mixer. Instead of using a smaller mixer, even though it would be easier to use a smaller mixer, I'm going to dig it out because I haven't fired it up in a while and I want to make sure everything is working okay on it. And it'll give me a little bit, I've got EQs and compressors on there, so if I want to have a little play just to see what this amp can do sound-wise, how it copes with a couple of different things, then yeah, that'll be a lot easier to do using the digital desk. So at the moment, it is 15:31. I've got to leave for work at about 5:05, maybe 5:10. So I've got quite a bit of time now to mess around with this stuff. I'm probably going to have to stop in about an hour's time just to get ready for work, make some food and stuff. But yeah, I've got about an hour free to play with. So I'm going to hook up some speakers and I'll take you guys through the fun ride of doing so. So guys, we're all set up. We're in very close proximity. We've got the 2 speakers there, so I'm going to be very careful because we don't know what this amp is capable of. As you can see here on the mixer, we have incoming stereo signal on a stereo channel, which is basically just coming from my Mac Pro, just coming out the headphone jack in the front of my Mac Pro. So I'm playing a track that'll probably get blocked on YouTube. But in theory, because we're going out of the XLRs, I've just linked them up for the distance, and the speakers are all plugged into the amp and everything is rock and roll. In theory, when we turn the amp on, we should get some sound. So just to be on the safe side, I'm going to pull the master down for now, and we're going to switch the amp on and see what happens. So here we go. This is my first time powering up with speakers. And yes, that did flicker the light slightly. Sorry about the noise in the background, by the way, guys. There's some work going on downstairs. So what I'm going to do is turn those up halfway. For now. Halfway. Put the master up a little bit. Bit more. Oh, hang on a sec. Channel on. Let's see. Okay, so at the moment we're not getting any sound. It's something to do with my mixer. I've messed something up. Hang on a sec. This is what you get for rushing, guys. I've actually come out of the control room outputs instead of the main outputs. So that's what you get for being excited and rushing, which is a trait that I definitely have. So if we swap these to main out, pull that down just in case. Right, there we go. Now if we turn the amp back on, and we turn the amp up to halfway, now we should get some sound. We'll give it a bit of main. And we've already got sound. And let's just stick it up to 0 because I don't think it's going to be too dangerous. And let's see what this amp does at half volume. Unfortunately, guys, I can't play too much more, otherwise my video is going to get blocked. Bearing in mind the amp is only halfway up, so that's pretty much a scary volume at the moment. I'll find some copyright-free stuff in a second, but first I'm going to have a play with this and see what it can do. So, shout out to Max X Arcade. I saw this track in his video, and he was testing his PA. Brilliant, brilliant video. I loved that video. It was so good. But basically, I have the output of the mixer on 0, and I have the amp at full whack, which is obviously where you want your amp ideally, and this is as quiet as it'll go. Taking over my love with you. That's as quiet as it'll go, which is sort of low, comfortable listening level, which is bonkers. And if I just give it a little bit of grunt, bearing in mind this is primarily an acoustic track, as you guys can hear, it definitely is really pushing it there.
song.
So we can push it quite hard.
Long after you go.
So at the moment, guys, I can pretty much say that I don't dare push it in here. Not only is it extremely bad for my hearing, but at the moment I'm unsure as to whether these speakers can deal with that. I need to really test it out in a big space to see what it can do and keep my eyes very close. But the amp, I haven't yet seen it above 1 dot. So there's 3 normal dots and then there's the clip light. And there's no way I can send it up to clipping in here. So the gain is just set at unity for these inputs, and
I could be singing this song.
it's just absolutely blasted.
Long after you go.
Now the cool thing is, if the speakers ever did start to distort, there's obviously going to be a low cut on these speakers anyway, because they're going to be crossed over. So it's going to look something a little bit like that, EQ in, and that's going to be rolled up slightly. Hang on a sec, I can't actually read it. Yeah, so roughly at 100 Hertz, that's where my bins are going to take over. So that takes even less pressure off of these speakers. At the moment, guys, they are colossally loud. That's literally the quietest I can get them. Yeah, I'm so impressed, guys. This, I know I can't make any judgments at this point because it's just in my bedroom, but I can happily say that this amp definitely is pushing out some power. It's absolutely nailing the GX3 at the moment.
Tomorrow I could be leaving too, but wherever I end up going, babe, I'll take a little piece of you.
Holy shit! No, I can't go much past there in here. Wow. So guys, I've been having a little play, and I've just found some random royalty-free music on YouTube now just to play. Of course, you know, YouTube quality stuff isn't the best to be playing around with. Something about these speakers then, very interesting thing actually. And, you know, if anyone ever comes across a pair of these, not that you would, I don't think they're very common, but they aren't actually that good standalone. If you're looking for something with a lot of low end, even sitting on the floor like this, more low end is desired. They are definitely designed to work with a subwoofer. And much under 70 Hertz, these guys aren't going to do a lot apart from give you a whole lot of weird sounds. But when you chop out, not that this is a dead chop, but when you chop out a lot of the low end, when you give it a good low cut, you can really crank these up and they just don't complain. So I'm really pleased. Now I have rolled the amp back slightly. I've rolled it back to there, just, you know, for safety reasons, just in case I slip and hit the mixer or whatever. It's not going to completely burst my eardrums. I don't know what the hell this is, but yeah, at the moment, guys, very pleased, and I'm pleased that both of the speakers are working. I've swept the frequencies and listened to them individually, and they both sound pretty much the same. As best as my ears can tell anyway. So I'm happy to take them apart to fit the handles and feet. I know that they're all working before taking them apart, so if they don't work when I put them back together, we know that there's something amiss. But I should be able to leave the crossovers and input boards in place and just take out probably just the main driver. And I'll take out the tweeter as well because of all the sawdust and everything, and I'll make sure I blow out the inside of the cabinet just in case there's any dust left in there. But yeah, NU3000 at the moment, Yeah, nice. Goodbye, I reckon. So guys, I would be really curious to try the bins out on the NU3000. The bins are 8 ohms also, so they'll be getting no more than 440 watts because that's the rated output, I believe, per channel. And the bins need a lot more than that. But the amp just seems to have a lot of grunt. Now, it's probably because I haven't whacked out a big pair of speakers like this in my bedroom for a long time. And also, you know, I've been doing a panto tour and I've been doing it on lighting, so I haven't been fiddling with sound stuff for a while. So I'm a bit out of practice and whatnot when it comes to how sensitive things like volume is. So, you know, I think it'll all be okay. I am very pleased with this amplifier, and I haven't pushed it into the third dot on the little meter here. Not that it says what they are. But yeah. Yeah, pretty good, not bad at all. So that's my lot, guys. I've just pushed it so that it was tickling the third LED on that little display on both channels, and I am pleased. Very, very pleased. That's me done for today with playing with this, because my ears are a little bit painful. So... very pleased with that, very pleased. I don't think the amp is too powerful for the speakers at the moment or any of that kind of stuff, but only time will tell. This is only playback with tracks, of course, which is totally different to a live scenario, but you know, it can still give you a good little idea. I think this will be an ideal little amp. I got the feeling that it will be, and of course it's so lightweight, really, really lightweight. I haven't had any problems running it in here, of course. 8 ohm load, it's all fine. So for today, I believe that is it for my updates. I've got 2 more speak-on leads ready for the bins. Looking forward to trying those out. Like I said, I don't think you guys will be seeing the bins in this video. But, you know, you will in a future video. It's just a little bit difficult because I can't keep them here. So, of course, it's harder to do testing and stuff. But what you will see in the next clip is some more stuff arriving and the progress with the patch panel and stuff like that. And wiring the amp rack in general, because at the moment this is just, you know, thrown together. So I'm really looking forward to getting this stuff underway. I think I'll go ahead and order an NU6000 just after packing this lot away. And, well, I'm only packing the mixer away and moving the speakers. I'm going to leave the amp rack here because I'm going to be working on it. So, yeah, for a first test, I think that was very successful.